Campbell.
And I'm Ron Jackson.
Cerebral conversations on disability liberation and integration. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cerebral Conversations, episode 23. This is Cerebral Conversations, conversations on disability liberation and integration. I'm CJ Campbell.
And I'm Ron Jackson.
Ron Jackson, let's get
Cerebral.
boom. So, I am fighting the sickness again, but let's get, instead of getting down with the sickness, to quote a terrible band, let's get down with your week.
My week has been pretty lazy, honestly. I did find a new Facebook game to waste my time with.
Ooh, people love wasting their time on Facebook's games.
Yes.
Myself, I have fallen a trap to such perils.
For those of you who don't know, I'm pretty enthralled with vampires. So I found the vampire game.
What's it called in case people want to play with you?
It's called Vampires: The Dark Side.
That sounds vampire-y sexy.
Yes, it's a pretty amazing game.
Anything else going on in your life?
I've been watching the World Series.
I have heard that this World Series is particularly good. I have not watched one game.
It's been pretty crazy.
Who are you pulling for, Cards or
I'm
Sox?
pulling. Well, as a Cub fan, I cannot pull for the Cardinals, so I'm pulling for the Red Sox.
Good. Anything else going on?
That's about it. There's a Halloween party tonight.
That's right. Our building is getting down. Unfortunately, I have to go. Oh, well, I shouldn't say I have to, but I get the opportunity to go teach. So that's what I do on Wednesday nights. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I've had a pretty interesting week. As you know, our mutual friend Bill, who's been my close best friend for the last almost 9 years of my life, had his birthday. It was a 90s themed birthday, and something interesting happened. I get a text message from my mom saying, "I'm worried your uncle and I can't get a hold of your grandma all day." I think something might be wrong. And usually my mom comes to me in situations of crisis. That's just how our relationship has functioned since I was a young kid. So, I have to be calm. I'm like, well, don't panic. It's probably her phone is dead. If you're really worried, call the police and ask them to do a welfare check. To which she replies, "I don't have her new address." So I said, "Okay, well, call one of her aunts and get it, and then call the police to do a welfare check." And she, before I could get that done, she says, "I have the address," and then sends me the address. To which I'm like, "So you want me to call the police, question mark?" To which she replies, "I'm scared," which I'm assuming means yes. So then I have the awkward task of being like, "Hey, Bill, happy birthday. I think my grandma might be dead." So then I have to help him, I ask him to help me go into the room and look up the non-emergency number for the Rockford Police Department and call them. And of course they always ask you, "Did you try to call her?" Which of course you'd be like, "Yes, no, I'm stupid. I'm an idiot." And so then I'm sitting there for like 2 hours, kind of just waiting for a phone call of, "Hey, so we found your grandma near death," or "She's dead," or "She's fine." And I'm trying to have fun at a 90s themed birthday party, and being crippled, I'm a natural wallflower and all those things. But now I'm like a super wallflower, because people are like, "What's going on?" I'm like, my grandma might be dead. I don't know. To which I finally get a phone call, and my girl was like, "Yeah, my phone had died. I didn't realize it all day." Other than that, I did get my board game nerdum out this weekend. For those of you that don't know, I'm a huge board game nerd. I was able to play a new board game that's been put out by the makers of Dungeons and Dragons called Lords of Waterdeep. Interesting, fun game. I highly suggest it.
Sounds interesting.
Also, I met an Israeli zombie the other
Zombie.
day. I went to this sort of quasi lecture from a guy named Moshe who is involved. He's closely tied with the archaeological antiquities minister of the Israeli government. And part of his story, from what I've been told, is that he was killed in the 6 Day War. Yeah, killed. And he returned from the dead. And that's pretty insane. And I went to kind of a lecture of his. I could only understand half of what he said, partially because I'm not smart, partially because I can't understand his heavy Israeli accent. It was an interesting experience. I definitely struggled with some of the things. You know, anything involving Israel is pretty heavy. And yeah, it was interesting. Other than that, as you can see, I'm fighting a sickness again. I don't know why, but I'm pretty sure people don't want to hear that. Pretty sure people want to hear about love, sex, and dating.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, what are we talking about this week?
We are discussing online and long distance relationships.
Yeah. So, this is something that we both have heavy amounts of experience with.
Yes.
If they gave out a PhD in these subjects, I think that we would probably both be known as Dr. C.J. Campbell and Dr. Ron Jackson.
I definitely would, and I think you would be there as well.
Yeah. I'm in one right now
Yes.
with a total foxy punk rock banjo playing vixen who I respect and love ever so much.
Hello, Alicia.
Hey there, my love. So why don't you share a bit of your experience in these realms? Have you had long distance relationships? Have you tried the online dating scene?
Yes, I have. I first tried online dating in about 2005 when Yahoo was first coming on the scene. And for me, online dating provides a sense of anonymity so that the person doesn't automatically see my chair and my physical disability. However, I've come to discover that this is not what I want, so I'm currently not interested in such things.
Would you mind kind of explaining why exactly you feel like online or long distance dating is not something that you want?
I just feel like I want to know a person and be able to share my life with them in other ways besides through text
And chatting.
and pictures and things like that.
So you want more of a kind of interactive,
Yes.
in real life experience.
Yes.
Have you... Now, I know that you talked about online. Have you had long-distance relationships, and what's kind of your experience with that?
I've had long-distance relationships where I've never met the people, but I have had them. Actually, this past summer, I just got out of a 3-year long-distance relationship.
That is quite the accomplishment.
Yes, that is quite a long time. So, it was fulfilling at first because I was able to share my day with this person and share my likes and dislikes with this person. But it became more of an obligation because I felt like I had to be by the phone at certain times and I had to wait for calls and I had to make my life fit around this relationship and it became very unhealthy for me, as you know, and as people who go through similar situations might know.
So for those of us who haven't had similar situations or don't know you personally, what exactly about that was unhealthy?
It was just the fact that I was changing my life to make sure that I was available for the person, and I began to feel like the person wasn't returning that same effort, so it became unhealthy because it started to make me wonder if this is what I deserved because of my disability, and that's the main reason why it became so unhealthy for me.
So you didn't feel like there was the same amount of seriousness and dedication?
Yeah, and I also felt like it was going to perpetuate the mindset that I already had of not being able to be a viable partner for someone in the quote unquote real world.
Yeah, I mean, I know as your friend, it was so hard for you to let this relationship go
Yeah.
and make that claim because in a sense you had to make a proclamation that you were worth more than what you were given.
Exactly.
And that was really hard to watch because for you to kind of lay everything out on the line and be like, hey, I need more from you, and then for that person to be like, well, I don't want to give more.
Right. And for me also, it was hard because it was the first time that I actually confronted this person about these issues in in an ultimative fashion, and that's hard for me because I'm generally not a confrontational person, and it took a lot for me to realize that I did deserve more than what this person was able to provide.
I can definitely relate to a lot of your experience. I think that a lot of our experience kind of coincide. Um, I am currently in a long distance relationship, and it's really funny because I had just sworn off long distance relationships when Alicia came into my life, and it kind of just happened in such a way where um, I didn't. I felt like it was way different than my previous experiences because I kind of fell into this habit and this, in a sense, mind trap of engaging through online interaction, and it wasn't something I was necessarily seeking out, but it would it would be like I would meet someone through happenstance that was long distance, and I would meet like a multitude of people, like a Norwegian model, and I felt hard for her, and I got strung along for a long period of time. Um, and then I developed like kind of two emotion ships. That's what I kind of call them because I never progressed into like any sort of commitment. Um, with a friend of mine from South Africa, and then like after we didn't work out, I was kind of, I don't want to say pushed over, but I can't think of a better term. I was kind of like, oh, but here I have this other friend who happens to have cerebral palsy, uh, and I kind of got involved in that, and I found that that I got a lot of emotional fix from these interactions, but I never got what I needed,
Mm-hmm.
and and I don't want to make it seem like it was all the women that I dated, because it wasn't. Also, I was always, when you engage online, and I think when you date in general, there's always this push to build a certain persona, and that uh, and especially to compensate for your disability. That So it's like, yeah, I'm crippled, but I'm this really great guy that can be there for you and super smart and all these things. Um, I was at one point kind of forced into the online dating world. Um, Basically, I had some people in my life kind of almost manipulate me to get on eHarmony, which I also call eHarm. I feel like it just causes a lot of harm in a lot of ways.
eHarm only.
I know that it's worked for some people, but my experience is kind of the same experience that I've had with long distance stuff, which primarily engages online, is that you have a lot of people that are looking to attract people instead of looking to be themselves.
Yeah.
so I so I dealt with a lot of people who had some very heavy insecurities, and it kind of allowed me to mask some of my insecurities as well. I got into one interaction that developed into a relationship, in a matter of speaking, that like the the woman was a good person, but we were just both dealing with some very heavy issues, and um, especially at that point in time, I think that the long distance and the online interaction, and that want to be safe and protect myself, played into a lot of things. And those are kind of some of, like, there's definitely a pro in the disability world to engaging online, because it allows people to get to know the person, or at least give them the chance to know the person, if the crippled brother or sister is willing to be that vulnerable, and to kind of get past that first preconceived notion of disability. However, what I find is that it doesn't necessarily build a place where you can engage, because some people aren't necessarily looking for real relationship. They're looking for an escape, a fantasy, and I've noticed that I tend to attract a lot of vulnerable people online, and my nature and some of my hang-ups. Um, I'm a very accommodating person, and so I'll kind of meet people in vulnerable places, feel a very strong connection, and some of my tendency is to just like immediately just be open with them, and like want to be there and fix things and be a rock, and that's not always healthy.
Right.
And then what I found is that I'll often help these women, but then they'll get to a place where they want what they've actually always wanted, because really what they needed was a friend. I was looking for more than that, and then it's kind of, well, you're not what I want, and that's okay. But the thing is that um, it tends to get into a lot of places of excuse me, of being led on. Do you kind of feel like that's?
I definitely feel like I'm similar in the fact that I'm very quick to be ultimately open with anyone who's receptive to it, because I also want to be a person's rock, as it were. So I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. Um. Uh. I think that my advice is this: is if you're engaging online or you're getting into long distance, even not necessarily relationship but infatuation, is be careful, go slow, like in any relationship. Be honest, be open, but don't put all your cards out on the table. Don't use kind of the as you said the anonymity of being online to allow you to engage in things that aren't really who you are if you're looking for a relationship. Um, uh, and just also be wary that there are people that are kind of just looking for certain things, and you can't necessarily put all of your hope into long distance online things because it's really hard to make those things work. Now, I'm lucky and blessed that I've met somebody uh, who I happen to meet through just happenstance, and it's working out really well. But also, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of vulnerability. There's a lot of communication that has to happen. You know, I know that you talked about having to be tied down to a phone or having to be tied down to a computer.
Mm-hmm.
And at times that's hard. I think one thing that has helped me is to always keep in perspective is that it's like it's my opportunity, it's my honor to engage with my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I I get to see her face and hear about her day and just experience her, and like that's what keeps us connected. And she's so much more than just like this online interaction. She's my girlfriend, and she really is my best friend. But it takes a lot of work, and especially with disability, um, it takes even more work to kind of share life because unless they meet you in person, they don't really get to experience the full nature of disability.
Exactly. Um, my biggest piece of advice would be not to make the relationship online or long distance the reason why you're motivated to engage with that person. Make the person you're engaging with the reason you're in the long distance relationship or online relationship. Um, some of us I know that I struggle with having, I made this person be tied to my self worth, and I want to encourage people not to do that. You have to find it in yourself to have enough self worth to be able to share with another person and not put that burden on them. So that would be my biggest piece of advice.
I think that's solid advice. I think hopefully anyone who watches this, whether able-bodied or a crippled brother or sister, um, can glean from our experience and find courage to seek after the most healthiest things. Um, and as always, we encourage you to not wrap your self identity in your ability to be in a relationship or those types of things. Your worth isn't in your ability to attract someone to you. Your worth is in who you are, and that's naturally going to be attractive to the right people. So we should wrap up episode 23 and let you know that you can email us your stories, your feedback, your questions. I highly encourage you to do this. Not enough people do. at our Gmail account, which is cerebralconversations@gmail.com, all one word. You can also like us on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/cerebralconversations. And you can follow us on Twitter. Did you know that we're on Twitter?
Yes, we have a handle.
What is our handle?
Our handle is @CerebralConvos.
That's right and true. You can also follow me, my personal life and journey, on my personal blog, The Running Search, at cjcampbell.tumblr.com. How can they engage in your vampire world and be your friend?
You can find me on Facebook at Ron Jackson.
Awesome. Well, until then, keep it cerebral.
Peace.